I now have a thingy to Snorlax with.
Oh, stop it. So we all just want to say hi to all of the people who have subscribed to watch us read. Charlotte in particular is really excited about it. And we're glad you're enjoying it. Okay.
I have banana teeth.
Read. Okay, are both of you ready to be calm? Okay.
Kinda.
Well, could you sleep? The Count asked the next night upon his arrival in the cage. Quite honestly, no, Wesley replied in his normal voice. I'm glad you're being honest with me. I'll be honest with you. No more charades between us, the Count said, putting down a number of notebooks and quill pens and ink bottles. I must carefully track your reactions, he explained. You can't play with the cable. In the name of science? The Count nodded. If my experiments are valid, my name will last beyond my body. It's immortality I'm after, to be quite honest. He adjusted a few knobs on the machine. I suppose you're naturally curious as to how this works. I have spent the night pondering, and I know no more than when I started. It appears to be a great conglomeration of soft rim cups of infinitely varied sizes, together with a wheel and a dial and a lever, and what it does is beyond me. Also glue, added the Count, pointing to a small tub of thick stuff to keep the cups attached. And with that he set to work, taking cup after cup, touching the soft rims with glue and setting them against Wesley's skin. Eventually I'll have to put one on your tongue too, the Count said, but I'll save that for last in case you have any questions. This certainly isn't the easiest thing to get set up, is it? I'll be able to fix that in later models, the Count said. At least those are my present plans. And he kept right on putting cup after cup on Wesley's skin until every inch of exposed surface was covered. So much for the outside, the Count said. The next is a bit more delicate. Try not to move. I'm chained hand, head, and foot, Wesley said. How much movement do you think I'm capable of? Are you really as brave as you sound, or are you a little frightened? The truth, please. This is for posterity, remember. I'm a little frightened, Wesley replied. The Count jotted that down along with the time. Then he got down to the fine work, and soon there were tiny, tiny soft rim cups on the insides of Wesley's nostrils, against his eardrums, under his eyelids, above and below his tongue, and before the Count arose, Wesley was covered inside and out with the things. Now all I do, the Count said very loudly, hoping Wesley could hear, is get the wheel going to its fastest spin so that I have more than enough power to operate. And the dial can be set from 1 to 20, and this being the first time, I will set it at the lowest setting, which is 1. And then all I need do is push the lever forward, and we should, if I haven't gummed it up, be in full operation. But Wesley, as the lever moved, took his brain away. And when the machine began, Wesley was stroking her autumn-colored hair and touching her skin of wintry cream, and then his world exploded because the cups were everywhere, and before they had punished his body but left his brain, only not the machine. The machine reached everywhere. His eyes were not his to control, and his ears could not hear her gentle, loving whisper, and his brain slid away, slid far from love into the deep vault of despair, hit hard, fell again down through the house of agony into the county of pain. Inside and out, Wesley's world was ripping apart, and he could do nothing but crack along with it. The Count turned off the machine then, and as he picked up his notebooks, he said, as you no doubt know, the concept of the suction pump is centuries old. Well, basically, that's all this is. Except instead of water, I'm sucking life. I've just sucked away 1 year of your life. Later, I'll set the dial higher, certainly to 2 or 3, perhaps even 5. Theoretically, 5 should be 5 times more severe than what you've just endured, so please, be specific in your answers. Tell me now, honestly, how do you feel? In humiliation and suffering and frustration and anger and anguish, so great it was dizzying, Wesley cried like a baby. Interesting, said the Count, and carefully noted it down.
How? How?
I don't know. It took Yellen a week to get his enforcers together in sufficient number, together with an adequate brute squad. And so 5 days before the wedding, he stood at the head of his company awaiting the speech of the prince. This was in the castle courtyard, and when the prince appeared, the Count was, as usual, with him, although not as usual, the Count seemed preoccupied. Which, of course, he was, though Yellen had no way of knowing that. The Count had sucked 10 years from Wesley this past week, and with the life of 65 that was average for a Florinese male, the victim had approximately 30 years remaining, assuming he was about 25 when they started experimenting. But how best to go about dividing that? The Count was simply in a quandary. So many possibilities, but which would prove scientifically most interesting? The Count sighed. Life was never easy. "You are here," the prince began, "because there may be another plot against my beloved. I charge each and every one of you with being her personal protector. I want the thieves' quarter empty and all the inhabitants jailed 24 hours before my wedding. Only then will I rest easy. Gentlemen, I beg you, think of this mission as being an affair of the heart, and I know you will not fail." With that, he pivoted and, followed by the Count, hurried from the courtyard, leaving Yellen in command.
I hate the prince.
I do too. The conquest of the thieves' quarter began immediately. Yellen worked long and hard at it each day, but the thieves' quarter was a mile square, so there was much to do. Most of the criminals had been through unjust and illegal roundups before, so they offered little resistance. They knew the jails were not celled enough for all of them, so it meant a few days' incarceration. What did it matter? There was, however, a second group of criminals, those who realized that capture meant, for various past performances, death, and these, without exception, resisted. In general, Yellen, through adroit handling of the brute squad, was able to bring these bad fellows eventually under control. Still, 36 hours before the sunset wedding, there were half a dozen holdouts left in the thieves' quarter. Yellen arose at dawn, and tired and confused, not one of the captured criminals seemed to come from Gilder. He gathered the best of the brute squad and led them into the thieves' quarter for what simply had to be the final foray. Yellen went immediately to Falkbridge's alehouse, first sending all save 2 brutes off on various tasks, keeping a noisy one and a quiet one for his own needs. He knocked on Falkbridge's door and waited. Falkbridge was by far the most powerful man in the thieves' quarter. He seemed almost to own half of it, and there wasn't a crime of any dimension he wasn't behind. He always avoided arrest, and everyone except Yellen thought Falkbridge must be bribing somebody. Yellen knew he was bribing somebody, since every month, rain or shine, Falkbridge came to Yellen's house and gave him a satchel full of money. "Who?" Falkbridge called from inside the alehouse. "The chief of all enforcement in Florin City, accompanied by brutes," Yellen replied. Completeness was one of his virtues. "Oh." Falkbridge opened the door. For a power, he was very unimposing, short and chubby. "Come in." Yellen entered, leaving the 2 brutes in the doorway. "Get ready and be quick," Yellen said. "Hey, Yellen, it's me," Falkbridge said softly. I know, Yellen said softly right back, "but please, do me a favor and get ready." Pretend I did. "I'll stay in the alehouse, I promise. I got enough food. No one will ever know." "The prince is without mercy," Yellen said. "If I let you stay..." Leave it alone, okay? "If I let you stay, and I'm found out, that's it for me. I've been paying you 20 years to stay out of jail. You're a rich man just so I don't have to go to jail. Where's the logic of me paying you and no advantages? I'll make it up to you. I'll get you the best cell in Florin City. Don't you trust me? I asked you to leave it alone. Keep it off the table then." "How can I trust a man I paid 20 years to stay out of jail when all of a sudden the minute a little extra pressure's on, he says go to jail? I'm not going." "You!" Yellen signaled to the noisy one. The brute started running forward. "Put this man in the wagon immediately," Yellen said. Falkbridge was starting to explain when the noisy one clubbed him across the neck. "Not so hard!" Yellen cried. The noisy one picked up Falkbridge, tried dusting his clothes. "Is he alive?" Yellen asked. "See, I didn't know you wanted him breathing in the wagon. I thought you only wanted him in the wagon, breathing or not, so..." "Enough!" Yellen interrupted, and upset he hurried out of the alehouse while the noisy one brought Falkbridge. "Is that everyone then?" Yellen asked, as various brutes were visible leaving the thieves' quarter, pulling various wagons. "I think there's still the fencer with the brandy," the noisy one began. "See, they tried getting him out yesterday, but I can't be bothered with a drunk. I'm an important man. Get it? No, you will make a mess. You're done. Put then up on the table. Or get more water, I don't care, but do not stick your hands in there and then get red dye all over the carpet."
I won't.
"I can't be bothered with a drunk. I'm an important man. Get him out of here and do it now, both of you. Take the wagon with you and be quick. This quarter must be locked and deserted by sundown or the prince will be mad at me. And I don't like it much when the prince is mad at me." We're going, the noisy one replied, and he hurried off, letting the quiet one bring the wagon with Falkbridge inside. They tried getting this fencer yesterday, some of the standard enforcers, but it seems he has certain sword skills that made them wary. But I think I have a trick that will work. The quiet one hurried along behind, dragging the wagon. They rounded a corner, and from around another corner just up ahead, a kind of drunken mumbling was starting to get louder. I'm getting very bored, Vicini, came from out of sight. 3 months is a long time to wait, especially for a passionate Spaniard. Much louder now. And I am a very passionate Vicini, and you are nothing but a tardy Sicilian. So if you are not here in 90 more days, I am done with you. You hear? Done! Much softer now. I didn't mean that, Vicini. I just love my filthy stew. Take your time. The noisy brute slowed. That kind of talk goes on all day. Ignore it and keep the wagon out of sight. The quiet one pushed the wagon almost to the corner and stopped it. Stay with the wagon, the noisy one added, and then whispered, Here comes my trick. With that, he walked alone around the corner and stared ahead at the skinny fellow sitting clutching the brandy bottle on the stoop. Ho there, friend, the noisy one said. I'm not moving. Keep your hold there, said the brandy drinker. Hear me through, please. I've been sent by Prince Humperdinck himself, who is in need of entertainment. Tomorrow is our country's 500th anniversary, and the dozen greatest tumblers and fencers and entertainers are at this very moment competing. The finest pair will compete personally tomorrow for the new bride and groom. Now, as to why I'm here, yesterday some of my friends tried rousting you, and they said later that you resisted with some splendid sword work. So if you would, like I, at great personal sacrifice, will rush you to the fencing contest, where, if you were as good as I'm told, you might have yet the honor of entertaining the royal couple tomorrow. Do you think you could win such a competition? Bracing. Then hurry while there's still time to enter. The Spaniard managed to stand. He unsheathed his sword and flashed it a few times across the morning. The noisy one took a few quick steps backward and said, No time to waste, come along now. Then the drunk started yelling. I'm waiting for Vicini. Meanie. I'm not mean, I'm just following the rule. Cruel. Not cruel, not mean, can't you understand? And here his voice trailed off for a moment as he squinted. Then quietly he said, Fezzik? From behind the noisy one, the quiet one said, Who says it? Inigo took a step. Callie took a step from his stoop, trying desperately to make his eyes focus through the brandy. Fezzik? Is that a joke you made? The quiet one said, Played. Inigo gave a cry and started staggering forward. Fezzik, it's you! True! And he reached out, grabbed Inigo just before he stumbled, and brought him back to an upright position. Hold him just like that, the noisy brute said, and he moved in quickly, right arm raised, as he had done to Falkbridge. Splat! Fezzik dumped the noisy brute into the wagon beside Falkbridge, covered them both with a soiled blanket, then hurried back to Inigo, whom he'd left leaning propped against a building. It's just so good to see you, Fezzik said then. Oh, it is, but... Inigo's voice was winding steadily down now. I'm too weak for surprises, were the last sounds he got out before he fainted from fatigue and brandy, and no food and bad sleep and lots of other things, none of them nutritious. Fezzik hoisted him up with one arm, took the wagon in the other, and hurried back to Falkbridge's house. He carried Inigo inside, placed him upstairs on Falkbridge's feather bed, then hurried away to the entrance of the thieves' quarter, dragging the wagon behind him. He made very sure that the dirty blanket covered both the victims, and outside the entrance the brute squad held a boot count of those they had removed. The total came out right, and by 11 in the morning the great walled thieves' quarter was officially emptied and padlocked. Released from active duty, Fezzik followed the wall around to a quiet place and waited. He was alone. Walls were never any problem for him, not so long as his arms worked, and he quickly scaled this one and hurried back through the quiet streets to Falkbridge's house. He made some tea, carried it upstairs, and force-fed Inigo. Within a few moments, Inigo was blinking under his own power. It's just so good to see you, Fezzik said then. Oh, it is, Inigo agreed. And I am sorry for fainting, but I have done nothing for 90 days but wait for Vizzini and drink brandy, and a surprise like seeing you. Well, that was just too much for me on an empty stomach. But I'm fine now. Good, Fezzik said. Vizzini is dead. He is, eh? Dead, you say, And then he fainted again. Fezzik began berating himself. Oh, you stupid. If there's a right way and a wrong way, trust you to find the dumb way. Fool, fool, back to the beginning was the rule. Fezzik really felt idiotic then, because after months of forgetting, now that he didn't need to remember anymore, he remembered. He hurried downstairs and made some tea and brought some crackers and honey and fed Inigo again. When Inigo blinked, Fezzik said, Rest. Thank you, my friend. No more fainting. And he closed his eyes and slept for an hour. Fezzik busied himself in Falkbridge's kitchen. He really didn't know how to prepare a proper meal, but he could heat and he could cool and he could sniff the good meat from the rotted, so it wasn't too great a task to finally end up with something that once looked like a roast beef and another thing that could have been a potato. The unexpected smell of hot food brought Inigo around, and he lay in bed eating every bite Fezzik fed him. I never realized I was in such terrible condition, Inigo said, chewing away. Shh, you'll be fine now, Fezzik said, cutting another piece of meat and putting it into Inigo's mouth. Inigo chewed it carefully down. First, you appearing so suddenly, and then on top of that, the business of Vizzini, it was too much for me. It would have been too much for anybody. Just rest. Fezzik began to cut another piece of meat. I feel such a baby, so helpless, Inigo said, taking the next bite, chewing away. You'll be as strong as ever by sundown, Fezzik promised, getting the next piece of meat ready. The six-fingered man is named Count Rugen, and he's here right now in Florin City. Interesting, Inigo managed this time before he fainted again. Fezzik stood over the still figure. Well, it is so good to see you, he said, and it's been such a long time, and I've just got so much news. Inigo only lay there. Fezzik hurried to Falkbridge's tub and plugged it up, and after a lot of work, he got it filled with steaming water, and then he dunked Inigo in, holding him down with one hand, holding Inigo's mouth shut with the other. Not quite the same. And when the brandy began to sweat from the Spaniard's body, Fezzik emptied the tub and filled it again, with icy water this time. And back he plunged Inigo, and when that water began to warm a bit, back he filled the tub with steaming stuff, and back went Inigo, and now the brandy was really oozing from his pores, and that was how it went, hour after hour. Hot to icy cold to steaming hot, and then some tea, and then some toast, and then some steaming hot again, and more icy cold, and then a nap, and then more toast and less tea, but the longest steamer yet, and this time there wasn't much brandy left inside, and one final icy cold, and then a 2-hour sleep until mid-afternoon. They sat downstairs in Falkbridge's kitchen, and now, at last, for the first time in 90 days, Inigo's eyes were almost bright. His hands did shake, but not all that noticeably, and perhaps the Inigo of before the brandy would have bested this fellow now in 60 minutes of solid fencing. But not too many other masters in the world would have survived for 5. Tell me briefly now, while I've been here with the brandy, where have you been? Well, I spent some time in a fishing village, and then I wandered a bit, and then a few weeks ago I found myself in Gilder, and the talk was of the coming wedding, and perhaps a coming war, and I remembered Buttercup when I carried her up the cliffs of insanity. She was so pretty and soft, and I'd never been so near perfume before, and I thought it might be nice to see her wedding celebration, so I came here. But my money was gone, and then they were forming a brute squad and needed giants, and I went to apply, and they beat me with clubs to see if I was strong enough, and when the clubs broke, they decided I was. I've been a brute first class all this past week. It's very good pay. Inigo nodded. All right. Again, and this time, please be brief, from the beginning. The man in black, did he get by you? Yes, fairly, too. Strength against strength. I was too slow and out of practice. Then it was he that killed Vizzini. That is my belief. Did he use his sword or his strength? Fezzik tried to remember. There weren't any sword wounds, and Vizzini didn't seem broken. There were just these 2 goblets, and Vizzini dead. Poison is my guess. Why would Vizzini take poison? Fezzik hadn't the least idea. But he was definitely dead. Fezzik was positive. Inigo began to pace the kitchen, his movements quick and sharp, the way his movements were before. All right. Vicini is dead. Enough of that. Tell me briefly where the six-fingered Rugen is, so I may kill him.
So I'm killing him.
That may not be so easy, Inigo, because the Count is with the Prince, and the Prince is in his castle, and he has pledged not to leave it till after his wedding, for he fears another sneak attack from Gilder. And all the entrances but the main one are sealed for safety, and the main doors are guarded by 20 men. Inigo said, pacing faster now. If you fought 5, and I fenced 5, that would mean 10 gone, which would be bad, because that would also mean 10 left, and they would kill us. But, and now he picked up his pace even more, if you should take 6, and I took 8, that would mean 14 bitten, which would not be as bad, but still bad enough, since the 6 remaining would kill us. And now he whirled on Fezzik. How many could you handle at most? Well, some of them are from the brute squad, so I don't think more than 8. Leaving me 12, which is not impossible, but not the best way to spend your first evening after 3 months on brandy. And suddenly Inigo's body sagged, and in his eyes, bright a moment ago, now there was moisture. What has happened? Fezzik cried. Oh, my friend, I need Vicini. I am not a planner, I follow. Tell me what to do, and no man alive does it better, but my mind is like fine wine. It travels badly. I go from thought to thought, but not with logic, and I forget things. Help me, Fezzik, what am I to do? Fezzik wanted to cry now, too. I'm the stupidest fellow that was ever born, you know that. I couldn't remember to come back here, even after you made up that special lovely rhyme for me. I need Vicini, but Vicini is dead. And then Inigo was up again, blazing about the kitchen, and for the first time his fingers were snapping with excitement. I don't need Vicini. I need his master. I need the man in black. Look, he bested me with steel, my greatness. He bested you with strength, yours. He must have outplanned and outthought Vicini, and he will tell me how to break through the castle and kill the 6-fingered beast.
The only problem
If
is
you
that he is in the castle.
If you have the least notion where the man in black is at this moment, relate quickly the answer. He sails the 7 seas with the dread pirate Roberts. Why would he do a thing like that? Because he's a sailor for the dread pirate Roberts. A sailor? A common sailor? A common, ordinary seaman, best the great Inigo Montoya with the sword? Inconceivable! He must be the dread pirate Roberts. Otherwise, it makes no sense. In any event, he's sailing far away. Count Rugen says so, and the prince himself gave the order. The prince wants no pirates around. What with all the troubles he's having with Gilder. Remember, they kidnapped the princess once. They might try. Fezzik, we kidnapped the princess once. You never were strong on memory, but even you should recall that we put the Gilder uniform pieces under the princess's saddle. Vicini did it because he was under orders to do it. Someone wanted Gilder to look guilty, and who but a noble would want that? And what noble more than the war-loving prince himself? We never knew who hired Vicini. I guess Humperdinck. And as for the Count's word on the man in black's whereabouts, since the Count is the same man who slaughtered my father, we can rest assured that he is certainly a terrific fellow. He started for the door. Come, we have much to do. Fezzik followed him through the darkening streets of the thieves' quarter. You'll explain things to me as we go along? Fezzik asked. I'll explain them to you now. His blade-like body knifed on through the quiet streets, Fezzik hurrying alongside. A. I need to reach Count Rugen to at last avenge my father. B. I cannot plan on how to reach Count Rugen. C. Vicini could have planned it for me, but C prime, Vicini is unavailable. However, D. The man in black outplanned Vicini, so therefore E. The man in black can get me to Count Rugen. But I told you, Prince Humperdinck, after he captured him, gave orders for all to hear that the man in black was to be returned safely to his ship. Everyone in Florin knows this to be so. A. Prince Humperdinck has some plans to kill his fiancée and hired us to carry them out. But B. The man in black ruined Prince Humperdinck's plans. However, eventually C. Prince Humperdinck managed to capture the man in black, and, as everybody in all Florin City also knows, Prince Humperdinck has a terrible temper. So, therefore, D. If a man has a terrible temper, what could be more fun than losing it against the very fellow who spoiled your plans to kill your fiancée? They had reached the thieves' quarter wall now. Inigo jumped on Fezzik's shoulders, and Fezzik started to climb. Conclusion. 1, Inigo continued, not missing a beat. Since the prince is in Florence City taking out his temper on the man in black, the man in black must also be in Florence City. Conclusion 2, the man in black must not be too happy with his present situation. Conclusion 3, I am in Florence City and need a planner to avenge my father, while he is in Florence City and needs a rescuer to salvage his future. And when people have equal needs of each other, conclusion 4 and final, deals are made. Fezzik reached the top of the wall and started carefully climbing down the other side. I understand everything, he said.
Ow.
You understand nothing, but it really doesn't matter, since what you mean is you're glad to see me, just as I'm glad to see you, because no more loneliness. That's what I mean, said Fezzik.